Banana bastard. Ajimu domado. Bet I leave you, or you kill me. Matata. Them say cooking on the Bilal. On the streets of the country, they say cooking on the Bilal. Somebody talk to them, everybody love. Everyone is going, taking the Lord. Whatever goes my heart, I will remember. What's on my eye when I remember? Said you love for every scene, nobody December. When you tell me to not cocaine, then be the lava. Them say cocaine don't be lava. On the streets don't become the lava. Somebody just say everybody lava. Every man's the way, taking the lava. I beg. Send it to London. Send it to Banku. Send it to Igbeshi. Send it to drugs. Whatever people can do, If anybody give me your banner, guy, sugar that be giving you cocaine. You come, you tell you now you take start. What you mean I say? Simba, what you cool, Simba. Love is say, I know they hear when they say, make I stop. I know it's stop. I swear I want to stop. Somebody help me stop. If anybody give me your banner, when I cool see you, Simba, what you cool, Simba. Banana bastard. Ajimu domado. They can leave you, or you kill me.
All right, a very good afternoon to all our compatriots across Nigeria and those joining us from other parts of the world, be you in Africa, Middle East, Asia, America, Europe, wherever you are joining us from. This is the 108th edition of NDLA's Open Forum on X Space. And I'm your regular host, Femi Babafemi is the name. We are live from the national headquarters of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency located in the nation's federal capital territory, Abuja. We'd like to inform you that this is a platform where we share information, knowledge, and raise awareness about substance abuse and its devastating impact on human lives, public health, and indeed our environment. This platform also serves as a channel of providing help to those struggling with substance abuse, especially those who need treatment, who need help. It is equally a means for us to update you about the activities of the agency, especially what we're doing to curb the scourge of substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking, as well as getting your feedback so that we can continue to improve on what we do to serve you, our society, and indeed humanity better. This conversation is recorded and is streamed live as we speak now on our other social media handles, especially at NDLA01 on Facebook and at NDLA TV on YouTube. Please let's share the link with those that are not yet on the space to remind them and to invite them so that they can be part of this conversation and indeed benefit from the great insights that will be shared by our guest speaker today and a number of other professionals who will be joining and contributing to this conversation. It's also my pleasure to let you know that indeed you can always go back to this conversation, go back to our handles to take a listen to the recording and even share with others. Now we're moving fast and swiftly too, but before we get to our guest speaker today, who is already well seated, is a woman of deep knowledge in this area where we'll be discussing today. I know her personally, so I can speak on her without even reading formally her profile. But then before we get to her, let's remind you of some of the activities of the agency in the past week, which usually comes in our news highlight segment. And that will be taken by two of our young officers, Netta and Miriam. Let's hear from you, Netta. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good day to everyone, and thank you for joining us on this week's X Space. My name is Netta Wegozie, and here are the NDLEA news highlights for the week. First, the headlines. Businessman excretes 88 traps of cocaine as NDLEA intercepts drugs in needles at MMIA. Recovers 6.2 billion naira worth of codeine bottles at Onne Port. Arrests 70-year-old grandpa. Others in Ekiti. Open forest raids. A Vietnam-bound businessman, Paul Okwim Baduga, has been arrested by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, NAIA, Abuja, after he tested positive to ingestion of cocaine. The 54-year-old suspect was intercepted at the boarding gate of the Abuja Airport on Monday, 12 August 2024, during the outward clearance of Qatar Airways flight QR 1432 to Hanoi, Vietnam via Doha. After 4 days under excretion observation, Mbaduga ingested a total of 88 wraps of the illicit drug with a gross weight of 1.710 kilograms. In his statement, he claimed he's a Lagos-based businessman and was given the cocaine pellets to swallow by a friend at Isolo area of the state for onward delivery in Vietnam for a fee of $2,000. In the same vein, NDLEA officers at the export shed of the Murtala Muhammed International Airport, MMIA, Ikeja, Lagos, have intercepted a shipment of loud, a synthetic strain of cannabis weighing 800 grams, concealed in needles going to Congo. A follow-up operation at the Alaba International Market, Ojo area of Lagos, led to the arrest of the sender of the consignment, Nnamani Sunday Sonny, who deals in GSM handsets. Meanwhile, a large consignment of loud imported from Canada have been recovered by NDLEA operatives at Lagos Airport. A suspect, Desalu Taoufik Temitope, who arrived on board an Air France flight with 6 boxes, was arrested by anti-narcotic officers during a joint examination by security agencies at the arrival hall. A total of 65.80 kilograms of the psychoactive substance were recovered from 4 of the 6 suitcases. In his statement, Desalu said he and an accomplice, currently at large, were promised $10,000 upon successful delivery of the shipment in Lagos. No less than 892,400 bottles of codeine-based syrup worth 6,246,800,000 naira in street value were recovered from 5 containers by NDLEA operatives at the Port Harcourt Port Complex on River State during a joint examination of the containers with men of the Nigerian Customs and other port stakeholders on Wednesday 14th and Thursday 15th August 2024. The bottles of the opioids were packed in 5,337 cartons with a gross weight of 133,860 kilograms and shipped in 5 containers from India. In Ekiti State, NDLEA operatives supported by men of the Nigerian Army and other security agencies, as well as community youth on Wednesday 14th August, raided the Ise Forest, Salaje Camp, Ise Ekiti, where 21,800 kilograms of cannabis sativa on 20 hectares of farmland were destroyed. The following day, Thursday 15th August, NDLEA officers on patrol along Onitsha-Enugu Road in Enugu intercepted a Sienna bus marked SKA24AG, from which 200.2 kilograms of cannabis was recovered, and the driver, Okoro Emmanuel, 41, arrested. While the duo of Joseph Ape, 45, and Diamond Nabuwike, 21, were arrested with 145,400 pills of tramadol on Monday, 12th August, at Gedar Tambarawa area of Kano. NDLEA operatives in Ogun State on Tuesday, 13th August, arrested 70-year-old Fidelis Egede and 3 others, Samuel Silvanus, Jato Samson, and Francis Blessing, where the cannabis plantation on 6 hectares was raided at Alaka village. In Abuja, NDLEA officers on patrol along Kwali Gogalada Expressway on Tuesday, 13th August, intercepted a truck from which 30,000 ampoules of pentazocine injection were recovered, and 3 suspects, Ifeanyi Sunday, Jeremiah Paul, and Edet Ubokobong, arrested. While operating in Niger State on Thursday, 15th August, arrested Ifeanyi Chukwueze in Kontagora town with 28,500 pills of tramadol concealed in a loudspeaker. Their counterpart in Kogi State on Wednesday, 14th August, nabbed Abba Yakubu with 40,000 pills of the same opioid heading to Kontagora. Another suspect, Tochukwu Ona, 39, was arrested by NDLEA officers at Paparanda, Lokoja on Thursday, 15th August 2024, with 1,000 ampoules of pentazocine injection. While commending the officers and men of the NAIA, MMIA, Port Harcourt Port Complex, FCT, Kogi, Ogun, Ekiti, Kano, Enugu, and Niger commands of the agency for the arrest and seizures of the past week, Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of NDLEA, Brigadier General Mohammed Bubamara, retired, also applauded their compatriots in all the commands across the country for intensifying the WADA sensitization lectures and advocacy messages to every part of their areas of responsibility. That's it on arrest and seizures. Now, here are the WADA activities across the country for the week. Over to you, Mariam.
Thank you, Neta. My name is Musa Mariam, and here are some of the weather activities across the country for the week. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, through the War Against Drug Abuse WADA Social Advocacy Initiative, makes efforts to combat drug abuse in the society, supporting citizens in making informed decisions on substance use through sensitization lectures and campaigns conducted in schools, worship places, and communities, among others. NDLEA's WADA campaign is igniting a beacon of hope, rallying communities far and wide to join forces in the fight against substance abuse. In order to strengthen community participation in the war against drug abuse at the grassroots, the Ondo State Command of NDLEA on Tuesday, 13th August 2024, paid WADA advocacy visits to His Imperial Majesty, the Olowo of Owo, Obajibade Gbadesain Ogunleye III, while the Zone C Zonal Command on same Tuesday delivered a compelling WADA advocacy lecture to the Mayangwa elders and youths of Agwan Ayaba community, Mina, Niger State, educating them on the inherent dangers of drug abuse. On Wednesday, 14th August, the Delta State Command visited the Dane of Ago, His Royal Majesty Dr. Benjamin Ikenchukwu, with a wider advocacy message seeking his support in the fight against drug abuse. Also, the Abia State Command delivered a WADA enlightenment lecture to the traditional rulers in Umuahia North on same day. The week's activities were wrapped up on Thursday, 15th August, with a WADA sensitization lecture to students of College of Nursing Science, Ago, by the Enugu State Command, while the Ekiti State Command paid a WADA advocacy visit to the management of Federal Polytechnic, Ado Ekiti. That's the update for the week. My name is Mariam, and I hand you over to our host, Mr. Fenwi Papa.
All right, thank you very much, Neta and Miriam there. Welcome back from the news highlight segments. Now let's quickly remind ourselves about some of the rules guiding our process of engagement on this program. Please note that when we approve you to be on the speaker's corner table, please ensure that you remain muted until after our guest presentation. I will then start inviting individuals to unmute themselves and ask their question or make their contributions very briefly. Please, let's stick to these rules. Also note that we don't discuss politics here, strictly about the issues of substance abuse and related public health matters. Please, let's play by the rules. And again, we also don't encourage unauthorized interruption. If you are approved to be on the speaker's corner and you interrupt or you leave your mic on, we may have to remove you, take you back to the listener's side. Please let's ensure that we remain guided so that we all can enjoy the conversation. Quickly, let me tell us about remind us about the NDLA's call center, where we have quite a number of professionals, experts, ranging from counselors, clinical psychologists, psychotherapists, and even psychiatric doctors who work 24/7 every day of the week to provide mental health services and other psychosocial support services to those who are in need of support or who need treatment to aid their recovery and manage their social and emotional problems, improving their quality of life and enhancing performance and productivity. All of these services can be gotten through our toll-free helpline 0800 1020 3040. All you need to do from wherever you are joining, wherever you are in the comfort of your home, wherever you are in any part of the country, just dial the toll-free helpline and you'll be live in contact with our experts at the other end of the call. Again, to also make this service accessible and available to a wide range of our people, even down to the grassroots, to the communities, the local villages. The service is language sensitive, meaning that apart from officers, experts, officials attending to you in English or Pidgin. They can also speak or assist you, talk to you in any of the three major Nigerian languages, talking of Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo. This is just to ensure that nobody really has an excuse not to seek help and support when it gets to the point of when it comes to the issue of substance abuse. That said, let's come to let me now quickly invite our guest speaker today. She's no other person than Maria Ilugbohi, who is a substance use prevention specialist. Indeed, Maria is a substance use prevention professional. She is a top-notch capacity builder with a successful track record in coordinating, delivering, and management of trainings, interventions, and educational programs with measurable impact. She has indeed demonstrated proficiency in establishing local and international capacity building collaboration and strategies across local, national, and global scales with vast experiences in Africa, Europe, and Asia in the field of drug demand reduction. She is also a master trainer for the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, on drug prevention, treatment, and care sensitization, and has been involved in different school prevention programs across states in Nigeria. She's equally, she has international experience in trainings and manpower development, cutting across different sectors of human endeavors. Maria has helped in building capacities for influential figures in government, law enforcement, legislation, health sector, non-governmental organizations, and indeed educators. A former law enforcement officer herself, Maria oversees the Shelter Youth and Community Network, an NGO domiciled in Lagos, Nigeria, and hopefully where she's joining us from this cool afternoon. Please join me in welcoming Maria Ilugbohi as I invite her to unmute herself while we listen to her spend the next 30 minutes or thereabout discuss our topic for today, that is parenting strategies to empower youths to resist substance abuse in digital age. Indeed, it's a digital age. Please go ahead with your presentation, Maria. It's our pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Babafemi, and good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to everyone on this call. It's my pleasure to be
I
here.
respond on behalf of everybody because they are not allowed to speak now. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It's such an honor to be here. I really appreciate this invitation. So today, as has been announced, I'll be speaking on parenting strategies to empower youth to resist substance abuse in this digital age. And so I'll be talking a little bit on some, I would say, some little topics before that time. So I'd like to talk about parenting, what the digital age is. I would like us to look at the risk factors for drug use. We will look at prevention. Then we will look at what parents can do to empower young people to resist substance abuse. And of course, what are some of these drug resistance skills? So let me start by talking about parenting. Parenting is not something that we readily study or learn in school. It is common knowledge that if you want to become a professional, for instance, you want to become, let me say, an NDLE officer, you have to go for training for a minimum of 6 months to start with. And after that, of course, you do a lot of refresher courses and other courses in the course of your career. If you want to be a doctor, you spend a number of years, nothing less than 6 to 7 years to study. If you want to be a lawyer, the same. If you want to be a teacher, a pastor, whatever profession you choose or whatever career you choose, there has to be some studying, some grooming before you actually get into that. But when it comes to parenting, what we see most of the time is that when someone happens to have a child, automatically the person becomes a parent. Very few sects, either the Muslim or the Christian sect, are intentional even about teaching people about parenting. And it's not something that we readily say, okay, this is where we want to obtain a degree in. Having said that, parenting is actually the process of raising and nurturing a child from birth to adulthood. Is the process of providing for that child physically, emotionally, socially, intellectually, and supporting that child in every way possible so that that child develops to become a capable, confident, and compassionate individual. So this is what parenting is actually supposed to be. A child is not supposed to bring himself up. A child is supposed to know what he or she is supposed to do per time. So that is how human beings generally should function, knowing what laws or what regulations guide them. And then this is the digital age where uh, everyone knows everything, almost a little of everything. Information is so out there in the open. Both the correct and the incorrect information is there. Then we have access to computers, smartphones, and it seems as if everything is unlimited. Now we have AI at the touch of the finger. We get everything that we want. We seem to know so much. Yet, this has not really helped in terms of parenting or reducing substance use. Because the more information we have, if we have it in if we have so much of the negative information, is also going to affect us. But when we have positive information or we have access to education, we have access to programs like this where people can actually learn, of course, that's also a good point. So when we talk about prevention, we are talking about all the activities, all the programs that we can put in place to ensure that everyone is safe from drug use. So even though prevention is for everyone, prevention targets young people particularly. So we are talking about all the programs, all the activities we can put in place to ensure that young people avoid completely the initiation of drugs. Or if we are not able to make them to avoid completely, then we delay the time they start using. So instead of young people beginning to use drugs from 5, 6, 7 years, then we could delay them such that they are able to use drugs after their brains have been properly formed. Or programs we put in place to ensure that those who have already started do not continue using, and thereby they are able to avoid developing disorders or becoming dependent or becoming addicted, which is a word we normally do not want to use because of stigma. So this is what prevention is about. Why do we want to delay the initiation of substance use in young people in prevention? Because when young people begin to use substances when their brains are not fully formed, alcohol or other psychoactive substances can actually affect brain development in areas that are critical for thinking, for memory, for motivation, for impulse control, for taking sound decisions. And that is going to affect them early in life. And the earlier a person starts using psychoactive substances or drugs, the greater the tendency for that person to continue using, and then the greater the tendency to develop serious disorders, serious complications compared to someone who started using it much earlier. And sometimes I ask young people, when do you think the brain fully develops? Some of them will say 10 years. Some will say 15 years. Some will say 19 years, 18 years. But when we look at science tells us that the brain is not fully developed until we get to the ages of between 24 and 29 years. So that is actually the time young people should, if they want to experiment with substances, should actually do. I wonder how many people have waited till that till that age before experimenting. So the general aim of prevention is even broader than what I have said. So when we talk about prevention, it's not just about saying, oh, we don't want young people to use drugs. We don't want them to start using early. We don't want those who have already started not to continue, which are all very noble goals. However, the general aim of prevention is larger than that. What we hope to get in the long run, or the bigger picture, is that we want to bring up young people who are healthy, who are safe, who are able to develop and maximize their potentials, and eventually will be able to contribute to our community and our societies. So that's what prevention is about. But for parents to know the strategies to help young people prevent substance use, it's important for them to know the risk factors for drug use. So when we talk of risk factors, we are not talking about the risky use of drugs. We're actually saying, what is that thing that might put that child in that vulnerable position, that make that child or make that person likely to use substances? So we know that one of the things we talk about mostly is, oh, we need these children to have knowledge that substances are not good for them. Yes, that is true, and that is what we talk about most of the time. But apart from providing knowledge, because we say it is the lack of knowledge that constitutes the risk, but apart from providing knowledge, or apart from just saying, oh, it's because they didn't know, there are other things that can put a child at risk for drug use. One of those things is personality traits. We know that no two individuals are exactly alike. Some children are born very quiet. Some children are born as sensation seekers. Some of them are aggressive. Some of them are impulsive. So, for instance, I know some of us have relatives, young relatives, children. So it's possible that you take a child and throw the child up, and the child is happy, and then gives you some signs that I want to be thrown up again. I love this. I'm excited. And then you throw up another child. Before you even take that child up, the child begins to scream, begins to shout. So these are the different things that can either make one to be at risk and the other not. We are not saying that children that are not aggressive or impulsive never ever use drugs, but we say the likelihood is more with such children. So another risk factor for drug use is mental health disorders. So when a child has a mental health issue, it compromises that child's ability to know that I am not supposed to be involved in this kind of thing. That's on one hand. On the other hand, there are also children who, because of their mental health challenges, will tell you that I hear voices, and it is only when I take this particular substance that the voice, ceases. So some will say, I hear someone telling me I'm the president, I am the governor, I am this, I am that. Or I hear someone saying, take your life, and things like that. And then it's like my head is going to, burst open. And so I need to take this thing so that my head will be calm. And whenever I take it, I feel calm. So that mental health disorder can put a child at the risk for drug use. Another factor is family neglect and abuse. And we need to talk about this because we are talking about parenting. And because we are talking about parenting, we also have to talk about the family. So if in a family a child is neglected or abused, or the parents are not involved, or the parents are abusive, or the environment that the child grows up is toxic or chaotic, that child is at risk for drug use. Another thing is poor attachment to the school and community. Some children naturally do not like to go to school. Education is not their thing. They don't like to go to school. And so the time that they would have been occupied in school, sometimes they may stay at home or go somewhere else. And some of them may even go to school And then the school environment is so harsh. The teacher might be so harsh. I will beat you. I will kill you. Look at this cane and all of that. And then the child, maybe he was sitting in the middle of the class, begins to go to the back of the class, and then begins to go towards the door, and then begins to go towards the gate. And after that, he's even outside the gate. And in the process, that child will meet with people like that, other children that are, exhibiting the same vibes. And one thing might lead to the other, and they might take decisions that might not favor them. So another thing also that I talked about is the community. Some children are attached to the community, and they are not attached to their community. They don't find the community favorable. The reason being that some of these communities are very marginalized, very deprived, no infrastructure, no recreational facilities, nothing to look forward to. And so some of these children grow up in communities where they wake up and see most of the people they look up to, their breakfast is ogogoro or alcohol. In the evening, probably cannabis. And they are just loitering around. There are no schools for them to go to. And so all these things give them the opportunity, because most times what you see in marginalized community or slums are children who are running around unsupervised. And when children run around unsupervised, they can be the target of anyone's errand running. And so these issues also put children at risk. And then another issue in the family is if a child has a cold and unresponsive mother, especially in early childhood. If the parents are also modeling drugs, or if the child belongs to a family who condones the use of drugs, or the parents, the child finds the parent actively using drugs, or they do not say anything, they do not see anything wrong with drugs. So when I'm talking about drugs, I'm talking about psychoactive substances, alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, heroin, cocaine, amphetamine type stimulants. So those are the drugs I'm talking about. So it's not just what people refer to as hard drugs. So majorly, please have in mind that alcohol and tobacco is in the majority. So when they see their parents using these substances, they don't see anything wrong with that. And then poor and inconsistent family management, family conflict, like I said earlier. Then some parents are very permissive in their parenting. Whatever the child wants, the child gets. Please, am I still audible?
You are loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So whatever the child wants, the child gets. And if you're from Nigeria, you will be, I'm sure you're familiar with what we normally say, my child cannot pass through what I passed through. So sometimes you might want to take it, a bit further that, the child does nothing, the child cannot sweep, the child must not clean, the child must not do anything. Interestingly, during the COVID year, 2020, I read an article published by the United Nations on how children who are involved in house chores are less likely to use substances. And that was very, very important to me, because I know that one of the things in parenting is teaching our children how to do chores. So the study made us understand that, getting involved in house chores, giving them responsibilities and them doing the responsibilities help to cope that feeling of entitlement, and then helps them to do well in life. So also, when parents do not adequately supervise or monitor their children, you see that they are at risk of substance use. When parents do not have high aspirations for their children, I do not mean like extra high, some aspirations that are even beyond the children, no, but basic aspirations. We want you to do well, we want you to pass your exams and all of that. We know that there are some parents who their children come back from school, it is none of their business. Whether they are studying, whether they want to become anything, they are so engrossed in their own issues that they do not even have time for these children. And then also, when discipline in the home is lacking or inconsistent, so this can also be a problem. So the risk factors are not only in the school, in the home. We also have risk factors in the school. So in the school, earlier I did talk about children who do not like being in school. Their commitment to school is low. So in school, too, some of them might have peers who are using drugs, friends who are using drugs. They might be associating with deviant peers. Some of them might be experiencing rejection. And all these can pose as a risk factor. So then also some children, their transitional period in life can also be a factor. So a child is leaving primary school to secondary school, and probably the secondary school, when he was in primary school, he was a good child. He was a teacher's favorite. Everyone liked him. The child might just be thinking in his mind, now that I'm going to secondary school, I am not going to be that mommy's boy or teacher's girl. I'm going to do what every other person is doing. And so if we don't have conversations with our children even before leaving for school, we may not know what is on their minds. And then sometimes changing schools for children. A child is in this school and is being changed to the other school without being properly debriefed. Or a child says, I want to go to this school. And the parents say, I insist you must go to this school. All my friends' children are in this school, and you must go there. That child might go to the school and deliberately refuse to do well and begin to mix up with deviant peer groups. I tell you a true story that was shared with us in one of our trainings by an NDLE officer. She said she has a friend, and the mother reported the child. Her friend reported her child to her and said, my daughter is not doing well in school. She has failed the first term, she has failed the second term, and she's a very intelligent girl. And her own daughter was also in that school. So on the visiting day, both of them went, and she said, let me have a word with your daughter. And so she's a counselor anyway. So after speaking with the child opened up and said, Auntie, I don't want to be in this school. I told my mother that I don't want to be in this school. And she told me that all her friends and all her children's friends are in this school, but I don't like this school. And that is why I'm failing. I'm failing purposefully. I will fail and frustrate her. Can you imagine? I mean, in our generation, you would not even dare think about, but this is the digital age. You would not even think about such a thing. Whatever your parents said was law. No time for arguments, no time for negotiation. And our life was simple. But now we need to have these conversations so that things do not get out of hand. So how do we help young people? How do we help young people navigate life so that they can resist the temptation to use substances? And even if they try out, because most people, not everyone who tries a substance continues to use that substance. Majority of people who try out substances for the first time do not continue using. But of course, it will depend on a number of factors. And part of that is parenting. Yes, we know that peer pressure is strong, but when there is parental bonding, parental influence can also stop a child from yielding to peer pressure. And so one of the things we always advocate is parental involvement. Parents need to care for their children. They need to provide the basic needs: food, shelter, safety, clothing. They need to guide them. So guidance is not just oh, where did you just policing? There are some parents that are so harsh, of which harsh parenting is also a risk factor for drug use. So guidance can be done in a civil way. You set boundaries, teach values, model behavior. And of course, when it comes to setting boundaries, all parents must know that children will test boundaries. And so when the discipline is inconsistent, it affects the outcome. What's the boundary you're supposed to do? Setting the boundaries will not be able to achieve that. So parents need to support their children emotionally, apart from physically, they also need to support them emotionally. So they need to help their self-esteem. And they also need to allow their children to be independent. So a lot of parents talk down on their children. A lot of parents criticize their children so much without even knowing. Some parents even bully their children without knowing they are bullying them. And so we need to also check this. Parents need to teach children life skills. Yes, a lot of parents may not be able to teach life skills because this is really what the school is supposed to do. They need to teach life skills. They need to teach them problem-solving skills as well. So if parents can't do that, we hope that some schools are doing it. Yes, so that what the parents cannot do, the school can do, because we need both institutions. One institution builds on the other. Parents need to be good role models. They need to show positive values. They need to show good character strengths and traits. Because children do not so much do what we say, but they like to do what we do. They like to see they like to, listen with their eyes. Okay, my parents have said this, let me see. Then, of course, we need to protect them. No molestation. Most people who use substances are victims of abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, trauma, and all. And then there has to be love and bonding, love and connection. We need to love our children and we need to tell them that we love them. We need to affirm them. We don't have to wait till a child has done something very major before we now say, oh, you've done very well. No, the little things. Oh, you did that. Wonderful. You did that. Good. That's great. You mean you did this on your own? Ah, this is nice. I love this. Engage them in conversations. It's a digital age. The parents are using phones. The children are using phones. And sometimes the social media, is an avenue to get away from stress sometimes. And you say, oh, let me just check Facebook for 5 minutes. 5 minutes turns to 10 minutes. 10 minutes turns to 15 and 20. And then 30 sometimes. Oh, let me see what's happening on YouTube. Let me see what's happening on Twitter. Oh, and then we are not able to have that family time. So when we talk about effective parenting, we are talking about consistency. We are talking about patience. Consistency in ensuring that the rules or the regulations or the rules that we have given, the children abide by it. Of course, children will break rules. Yes, we are not saying that every rule, yes, but there just has to be that consistency. And then we have to be patient with them. Because young people, remember earlier I talked about brain development. The prefrontal cortex is that part of the brain that does executive functions. It's the last part to develop. It does not fully develop until young people are in their 20s. And so even if we see them looking so big, so huge, and then we say, as big as you are, you're supposed to know this, you're supposed to know that. We need to be patient with them because they may not know it all. And then active listening and communication is very important. Positive reinforcement and encouragement. We need to be flexible also. And then parents need to be self-aware. So you know your own emotional state, and then so that you know how you relate with your child. You show love and affection, very important. So I also like to add on parenting tips that it is important for us to have a warm relationship with our children. So if a child is offered drugs in school and the child says no, the possibility that that child will be rejected, ostracized, called names is very high. The child needs to talk to someone. If the child is able to talk to you as a parent and you're able to reassure the child that you are the one who is doing the right thing, you don't need to be afraid. You don't need to be bothered. Everyone will not like you. Then it will go a long way to calm that child's nerves. But when the child has nobody to talk to and is always afraid, I don't want to be alone, I don't want to be seen as, someone who doesn't have steez, that child might likely, want to try just to please the friends. And most times it's just to please their friends. It's not that there is something evil in the child or that the child is a sinner. It's just about pleasing their friends. Oh, I don't want to be different. Because as people grow up, identity is very important to them. They want to belong. They don't want to be left alone. But then, if a child has that relationship that he can tell the parents, oh, this is what happened in school and all of that. And sometimes it might have even happened to someone else. And your child comes to tell you that, oh, so and so was offered some substance and the person took it. Your reaction also matters. That's a teachable moment. That's not the time to swear, I will do this to you, I will do that, I will do. No. So you begin to engage the child in a conversation. So what do you think about that? What do you think you should have done? If you were in that situation, what would you have done? And then you talk to your child about your family values. Because every family have their values. When we're growing up, our parents will say, do not forget the son of whom you are or the daughter of whom you are, your family name, don't tarnish it and all of that. So parents should set rules for acceptable behavior in the house. Every child should know what is accepted in our house. In our house, you cannot come back after 7 p.m. In our house, you cannot do this. In our house, you cannot do that. So your children will say, my parents are boring. But when they leave home, they will be happy. And all of us who were properly brought up and disciplined, we look back and say, I thank God for my father. And sometimes when you see some of your friends or some people doing some things, we'll say, you can't try this in my father's house. You can't do this in my mother's house. So that's the joy. And then you see that you are properly adjusted. Parents need to monitor free time and friendship patterns. What is your child doing per time? So children should be made to understand that telling adults or telling your family members where you are is not a bad thing. It's out of course, where are you? Children need to be accountable. Young people need to be accountable. Even adults need to be accountable. So for instance, people that I'm close to know where I am per time. Always accountable. When I go for trainings, I check into a hotel, I'll send the name of a hotel, I'll send the room number. And when something happened, I think a year or two ago, where a man was killed in a hotel, and he was able to get justice because he had sent the details of where he was. I heard that thing really resonated with me. And so to monitor free time, if a parent says, okay, this is the time we all have to be back home, 7 p.m. When it is 5 minutes to 7, the parents need to ask the child, where are you? So the parents will not wait till after 7 o'clock, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, then the child comes back and he begins to say, I told you to come back by 7, why are you coming back by 10? Your child should know that by 5 minutes to 7, if I don't go home, my phone will be buzzing. Of course, there may be times that the child may come, maybe because of traffic, 7:30, but it's still within that time. And then who are your child's friends? Even if your child mixes up with someone who is evil or who is bad or someone you do not like, you have a conversation with your child. Who is this person? How do you know this person? Do his values align with us? This, that, you just have that conversation before you use the stick or before you begin to scream or before, we just need to calm down. And then in prevention, we talk about discipline. There should be consequences for behavior errors, but those consequences should be positive and they should be developmentally appropriate. So what is the age of this child? What is the positive discipline that can be given to this child such that it doesn't push this child away? A colleague of mine told me, he's an Asian, he said that while he was growing up, one of his friends stole meat at home, stole meat in the pot. His parents beat him up and disciplined him and still brought him to school and shamed him in the whole school. Some years later, that boy stopped coming to school and became the head of a gang of some gangster, association. So while I shared this story, another senior NDLA officer in a training said that in his school in Kwara State, that when you do something at home, they know that it is break time. During break time, anyone who did something bad at home, the parents will bring the person to shame the person in school. It was a normal thing. So they will bring the child and say, this is what he did, and everyone will sing the shame song and all of that. So there was this particular boy. He had done something at home, and he knew that the parents were going to come during break time to shame him. And so during break time, he cited his parents. He told his teacher that, excuse me, ma, I want to go out and ease myself. And the teacher said, go. He never came back to school till today. So the discipline that we give to our children should be positive. And even when we see our children using drugs, the first thing shouldn't be to call neighbors. If you're a regular watcher of Nigerian movies, Nollywood, home videos, that's the first thing that happens. Oh, the neighbors come, oh, everybody come and help me. Have a conversation, especially when the child is not still intoxicated. Allow that time to pass and have a conversation. Most children will talk to you about what is really going on. And then if they can't discuss with you, you could ask them, who would you want to talk to? Or if you could bring a professional to talk to them. Parents need to be interested in their children's education. They need to be, if your child is going to school, you need to be interested. If your child is learning a skill, you also need to be interested, and you need to be a role model. So before I round up, I want to talk about drug refusal skills that we can share with our young people to help them resist drugs. So drug refusal skills are those techniques, strategies that help people, especially young people, to resist or refuse drugs when they are offered to them. Because whether we like it or not, the likelihood that our children will be offered drugs is very high. So those skills can be categorized into assertive skills, refusal skills, social skills, coping skills, decision-making skills, and the rest. So because of our time, I'll just briefly touch on these skills. So assertive skills are those skills that help people to say no with all amount of politeness, yet firmly and clearly. So with assertive skills, people are able to set boundaries. Our children are able to set boundaries. And they are able to use the word I. They are not afraid to say I don't want to do this, or to say no, I'm not interested. So, and then refusal skills are skills that help them to give a reason why they don't want to do it. Oh, no, I don't want to do it. Oh, I'm offering you, no, I don't want it. I have something that I'm pursuing. I don't want to offend my parents. Change the topic, leave the situation. And then social skills are skills that help young people to build relationship with supportive peers. Not all peers will be supportive. And most people use drugs, say, oh, I want to use drugs so I can be bold. But if they have social skills and are able to interact with people, to talk with people, that will not be a problem. So they can be taught this. And then, of course, social skills will help them to find alternative activities to do if people close to them always want to hang out, to do drugs, or to be involved in risky behaviors. So coping skills is also another skill that is needed so that you're able to manage stress. So say, oh, I was stressed, that's why I took it. So there are ways of managing stress, deep breathing, and the rest. Those are ways of managing stress, and then or engaging in healthy habits. Another skill is the skill of decision making, weighing the risks and consequences. If this happens, what's going to happen? And that is something that young people hardly do. Young people are more about the the feel good thing. If it feels good, then it's good. Oh, party feels good, then we must go. The music sounds nice, we must dance all night instead of studying our books. So, but the good thing with these skills is that they can be taught. Yes. So decision-making skills help them to consider long-term consequences of things. Young people are just about the now. Yes, but when they are taught these skills, they are able to think about the long-term effects. They are able to make informed decisions. And so finally, some phrases that they must, have in mind all the time and shouldn't be afraid to use. No, these phrases are no, thank you, I'm good. I'm not into that. I have to go. I don't want to risk getting into trouble. I'm trying to stay healthy. I don't want to die young. Whatever it is, that they can, and they shouldn't be afraid. Someone is offering you drugs, you are not the one doing what is wrong as a young person. And so they need to know that they are the ones who ought to have the upper hand. Thank you so much for listening.
All right. Thank you very much, dear Lady Maria Ilubohi. Thank you for talking with us. That's in the last 30 minutes or thereabouts. Indeed, that was an excellent, seamless, and brilliant presentation. Thank you. I know that's your area of strength, so it wouldn't be of any stress at all. And she indeed delivered and gave a good account of herself. Thank you once again, dear Madam Maria. Thank you for that excellent presentation. Quickly, before we go into the interaction, throwing all the questions at her, intervening, making contributions, let me quickly acknowledge some of our compatriots on X here. We like to appreciate all of those joining us on YouTube and on Facebook. Thank you for being part of this conversation. But for those on X here, where we are really having this conversation live and direct, let me quickly appreciate Ahmad at Arewa Poet. Thank you, Ahmad, for your passion and commitment to this cause. We would also have Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah is of the Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital, Zaria. He joins us via Excel Mental Health Foundation handle. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. Farouk Kwabai. Thank you, Farouk. Mohammed Bafo, Iranshele Dumare. Dr. West is an officer of the agency. My colleague Shidi Unduku, Lord Fredrickson. Thank you. Salmat Aliyu, Divadoshi, another of my colleague here, Bashir Ibrahim, Bonded Brothers, Akimbode Peter, Pascal Iwebu, Dinsho, Ejikeme, Edu James, John Ogunjimi. John Ogunjimi is a regular feature of this program. Thank you, John. Dr. Juna Akolo, that's another of my colleague here. Winnie, thank you, Winnie. Nasir Adeniran Miche. Miche is another of my colleague. Goody Nice, that's Godi Nice. Leo Adam Etuk, S. Trooper, Okanimi Christian, Sebastian Lebo, Olua, okay, that is Mrs. Oluwatoyin Ogunkami. Thank you, Mrs. Oluwatoyin. Yusuf Muhammad, Drug Abuse and Illicit Sex, Grace 80 Cent, Amunat Awatai, Blessing Hanacho, Ruthie Abba, Musa Abubakar, Nigeria Must Be Great, that's at Ayomiji, Multi-Space 10. Yeah, we have quite a number of quite a number of people on the platform. We'll continue to acknowledge and appreciate each and everyone, even though we cannot cover everybody, but then we'll continue to appreciate as many people as we can. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Now let's get to be taking the questions one after the other from DM. This first one, thank you, Mrs. Maria, for that great presentation. That was a beautiful one. Now my question is, you enjoin parents to provide basic needs for the kids. Now, what if they are poor and have none, as is the case in most homes, especially in rural areas and villages? What do we do? All right. Madam Maria, did you hear that?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. So, if a parent cannot provide for a child all the things that he or she should provide, the parents can provide love and warmth. Warm child rearing is very important. So a parent can tell a child, oh, we don't have all of these things because we are poor, but we have love. We love you. And the parents can encourage a child that, do you want to have these kind of things in future? Then these and these and these are the things you need to do. You need to take your studies seriously. You need to take your prayer life seriously, or whatever they believe in. The parents can encourage the child. There are houses or there are homes where there is so much love, so much wealth, but no love. I feel that where there is love, where there is warmth, such children will still thrive. But where there is poverty and harshness, that's very dangerous. We cannot ask the parents to go and steal, can we? No. But the parents can provide warmth, can provide love, can provide a sense of belonging, can make their children still have that self-esteem that, yes, poverty is not the end of the world. So that can happen. Thank you.
All right, thank you too. That was actually from Ajibola. This one is Musbao. Musbao is okay. Okay, let me skip this. Okay, Musbao is saying, I appreciate the part where Mrs. Maria spoke extensively about the role and what parents can do to insulate our children from uh, substance abuse, especially building family ties with our kids. Now, my question is, how do you reconcile the hustle and bustle of life by most parents for resources to take care of these same children and the need to be present in their lives? Okay, you got that?
Yes, I got it.
Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So having time for your children um, does not mean that you will not work. This is our reality. In this day and age, we have to work harder than our parents did. But then, in a family where there are rules, one of the rules that should be there is family time rules. What time? So you can explain to your parents, I work from so time to so time. I love you and I really want to spend time with you. These and these are the times that I am free. What can we do within this time? And when it is that time, you give them that time, even if it is once a week. All your children will be looking forward to that time. Except you work 24 hours, 7 days a week. But if you do not work 24 hours, 7 days a week, you can say, okay, I am free at so time. We can do, this week we can do 30 minutes. Next week we can do 40 minutes. The other week we can do 20 minutes. And if we miss a week, the next week, then we can do 1 hour. And then we talk about what will we be doing at this time. So this might be the time to unpack. This might be the time, to talk about aspirations, goals, make requests, and all of that. There will always be a way if we are intentional. There will always be a way. There is no way parents will not work in this day and age. In fact, in most cases, both parents are busy. But there will always be, if we really sit down, yes, because there must be rules that guide everyone in the home, including the parents. And one of the rules is that we will have time for our children at so and so time. So we can create that time. I hope this helps.
All right, thank you very much, dear, for your response. I have somebody already on the line, but before I come to her, that is Mama B. Before I come to her, let me take these two questions again. Well, it's actually asked by the same person, not Imoni, Imoni. Imoni is asking, in this age and time, when the young generation are so independent minded, how do we as parents build trust with our children to be able to discuss substance abuse with them. That is one. The second question is, how do I which I think is also related, how do I monitor my kids or my kids' online activities without invading their privacy, which is one thing that also annoys them or that could send them away from the house or being cooperating with the parents.
Thank you, sir. So you start building trust by having conversations and then start checking why is trust not built. So you can ask your child, I want you to be honest with me. Is there anything that I am doing or that we are doing that you don't like so much? Your child will be surprised. But your child may talk. He or she might not talk the first time, second time, third, but as you keep asking, your child will speak up. And so you talk to your child, so what can we do? And then you also tell them what you would want them to do. So it's symbiotic. You cannot build trust when you are not close to someone. Some of us, our children don't even know us. And because we don't also want to spend so much that we just buy the gadgets and give them. Gadgets are very addictive. If you tell parents now that, research has shown that you should cut down on screen time, they say, go and sit down. What nonsense is that? Nobody can tell me what to do. When you spend the whole time on the screen, those because the programs are very simulating. The programs you see young children when they interact with gadgets or cartoons, the next thing they begin to act, they begin to say, they begin to to role play and all of those. Those are the things they do. No time with the parents. So you can build trust by beginning conversations. What can we do? And I'm sorry, most Nigerian parents don't think that they owe their children any explanation or a conversation. This is the digital age, and we cannot do what our parents did. And secondly, on privacy, there are some apps that can be downloaded on the phone that restricts movement to certain sites. So that helps you. And then you can also have a conversation with your children that you cannot go to this site, you must not go to this site, and this is the reason why you shouldn't go to this site. But if you've not had that conversation with them very early, it might be a bit difficult, but it's not impossible. But then I think one solution that I know that works is installing apps that restricts their navigation to some of the sites you do not want them to get to. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much there again, Madam Maria. Let's quickly, before we go back to the messages pouring in our DM, let's come back to the space here. Let's get the contribution or question from Mama B. Mama B, please go ahead.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone in this space. Thank you for having this space, and I'm grateful that I came across it. I just joined the space just as the last speaker was speaking before, and the words that I have heard so far is giving children love and a warmth, and I heard self-esteem, and I heard building trust. And all of these are true. That is where we build connection with our children so they don't have to seek it outside. And part of substance abuse is because they don't feel a connection at home, and a lot of us don't have been traumatized at home, and so we go seeking survival somewhere else. And substance abuse is that self-medication. So a lot of the self-abuse is to escape from the pain that we feel inside. And so I have noticed that many times when we talk about strategies of how to bring solutions to these problems, we come against our beliefs of how to parent our children. And a lot of them are cultural beliefs. A lot of them are probably spiritual beliefs of how to raise our children. Unfortunately, the beliefs that are driving how we raise our children are very toxic. And they create the very conditions that cause our children to run to something else, run to friends outside, run to gangs, run to drugs, to self-medicate the pain that's in them. And many of us, and I'm one of them, of course, that's why I'm in this work of breaking the cycle of toxic parenting. Many of us have been brought up in very punitive homes where to raise us somehow, we have been taught that inflicting pain in a child and making the child feel shamed about themselves and humiliated from, of course, the pillar of that parenting is a child is to be seen and not heard. I was raised like that. A child is to be seen or not heard. And so when a child is abused emotionally because they are to be seen and not heard, then they get to be humiliated, they get to be shamed. And a child who feels bad about themselves is not a child who's going to be inspired to feel good. Even as adults, we are struggling as adults. I'm a woman of a certain age. My son is now 38 years old. Even as adults, we stay away from toxic people. And yet, we expect our children to stay close to us, even though we are toxic. As adults, when we need to share our lives and we need advice from our friends, we choose the friends that we are feeling safe with. We choose friends that are not going to be critical and be judgmental and be punitive and be harsh to us. We choose those friends that we are going to feel comfortable with, who are going to listen to us, and we're going to feel loved by them. And yet, when it comes to children, we believe that all of that does not apply. And so we are these thorns to our children. We cause them pain, and then we tell them it's because we love them. And then we wonder why, when they grow up, they end up in relationships where they're being abused and beat up, and then told, oh, I am doing all of this because I love you. No wonder there's the confusion. So my encouragement to parents is that let us join the dots. Let us join the dots, that the outcomes that we see in our children now as they grow as into teenagers and adults are connected to their childhood, are connected to what's going on at home. The toxicity at home. We confuse how to discipline children with punishing them. And those are two different things. Disciplining children is not punishing children, and punishing children is not disciplining children. To discipline a child is to help a child change behavior in ways that leaves their self-esteem, which is another word that I heard spoken today, that leaves their self-esteem intact. Whereas punishing a child is punitive. That's where you find us inflicting physical pain on children. That's where you find us shaming and humiliating our children and making them feel bad about themselves. That's punishment. We should not be punishing our children. We need to shift that mindset in us. And I know that a lot of us struggle with the scripture. I'm a Christian. I struggled with that scripture of spare the rod and spoil the child. until I started looking into the original word of that rod. And I found that the word rod is that scripture in Proverbs was written by Solomon. Solomon was a poet. And so Solomon used a word of the time. And the word of the time was a Hebrew word, Shabbat or Shavat. And that meant that is the staff that the shepherds carried when they were shepherding out in the field. They used that staff, that rod, to point the way to where the sheep would go. If a sheep, walked away or wandered away from the rest of the sheep and almost falling into a ditch, then they just, directed it and prodded it along to the rest of the group. They never used that staff to beat up on the sheep. But sadly, somehow, in all the translations of the Bible and our beliefs, we somewhere started to believe that the rod is an instrument to beat up on children.
All right.
And I know that's controversial. It's controversial because we're used to domestic violence against children. I'm done speaking. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mama B, for those deep thoughts. And I actually believe they align with the presentation of Madam Maria. Thank you very much. I believe, Mama B, you must be joining us from US or somewhere, but certainly outside of the country, right?
Yes, I'm joining you from outside Africa. Yes, but I'm South African. I grew up in South Africa. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Mama B. Thank you for those deep thoughts. Madam Maria, would you want to say something to that, or should pass?
No, you can pass, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much. Those are
Yes,
very
sir.
beautiful, deep words, especially as it regards what we do at home in the name of disciplining our kids. All right, let me quickly take this. I'll come back to Bashir Ibrahim shortly, but let me take this message dropped by Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah says, thank you so much for this beautiful and well-crafted presentation. In our fight against the drug abuse scourge, the role of the family is indeed the most crucial. Thank you once again, Mrs. Maria. Okay, this is just an appreciation to Madam Maria from Dr. Abdullah. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. Okay, let's come to Bashir Ibrahim now, my colleague on this side. Bashir Ibrahim, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. DMA, thank you very much. My trainer, anyway, we don't expect anything less from you. At least I'm one of your students, so we're always proud having you out there. The guest lecturer has done justice and she has talked about all what we need to do as parents in raising our children. The only thing I just want to kind of add to it is these days we should be practicing what we call purposeful and positive parenting. And this is a skill that we need to learn. It's not something that you just start doing. That is why we actually advocate that when they do what do they call it, wedding counseling, marriage counseling, it should be collocated into what is being taught to the incoming or prospective marriage couples. That they only teach them the purpose of being together. But nobody takes time to actually tell them that, look, in the future, if God bless you, you have children. How do you raise these children? You cannot start raising children when they enter university and you want to be close to them. No, you are close to your children, to your world, right from the toddler age, at a very, very young age. I used to have a very good colleague of a blessed memory. The daughter is in the university. If she's stepping out of the house in the morning, the first person she will talk to is the father. She entered the examination hall. She's coming out. She's telling the father how the exam was. Every moment they keep on talking. He never developed that practice while the daughter entered university, but they developed that at a very lower age. So the mistake we make is that we are not close to our children where they were young. From the cradle, we should be part of their life. They should see us. We should show that love. We should have time to protect. Yes, and when we talk about setting the rules, it's a very simple thing. Maria has talked about it. How many of us say what we call grand rules in the house? And what are the consequences? They are very simple rules. They are not a kind of a high rules. One of the skills that we teach or we inculcate into people that are in recovery is to obey rules and regulations. They don't like it. But if you train your child right from the youthful age, no telephone on the dining table, the watching television time is between so hour to so hour. If you go out to a friend place to play, you have only 2 hours to play, you come back home. If you eat, you wash your plate. No vulgar language in the house. Nobody do this, nobody do that. You watch this at a particular time. They will grow up to be like that. So that when they are seeing bigger responsibilities, bigger rules, they are already accustomed to obeying rules and regulations. That is where we are getting it wrong as parents. Then you talk about not being available. Telephone is there with us these days. I remember a friend was telling me that I called, my children know that at so particular time I will call. When they are not home, they always find a way to be home. They know that daddy will call and will ask where I am. So if I don't have any excuse not to be home, then there is going to be a problem. So those are rules and consequences. Then another very fundamental mistake that we make in terms of giving drug is most parents give child A is sick at a particular time, they give him certain medications. After a while, child B has the same symptom. You don't allow him to go and see medical personnel, you now give him the same drug. You are teaching them how to receive or how to take another person's medication. And you are teaching them how to collect drugs without seeing doctor. You are teaching them self-medication. So these are very simple fundamental things that we do as parents. We will get it wrong. And tomorrow we start blaming our children that they are not this, they are not that. Please, way forward, we should get involved very early in the life of our children. And by God's grace, we'll get it right. Thank you very much, DMB. Thank you very much, my trainer.
All right, thank you very much. Please read one. You have to mute yourself so that I don't remove you. Please mute yourself. Yeah, thank you very much there. Let me quickly take this one also from DM. That's from Ruthie Abba. Ruthie Abba says, I would like to say that discipline is different from punishment. If you make discipline seem like punishment, that is how children would see it and are likely to rebel. Discipline can be in many different ways. All right, thank you very much there, Ruthie Abba. Okay, let's quickly take the intervention or question from Nigeria can be great. That's at Hayomiji. Please go ahead, Hayomiji, that Nigeria can be great.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, everybody. I really appreciate Mrs. Maria for your speech, and I really thank the NDLEA for bringing such platform. I believe if this can be coming up regularly, it will speak a lot, because I'm also a youth, and I know how I was brought up, and thank God I happen to be one of the, let me just say, the coordinator for anything that has to do with drug abuse in the Anglican Communion for Lagos and Ogun State. And we have seen a lot, and we know God will help us in our various homes. What I just want to chip in is this. We have heard a lot from Mrs. Maria. I don't know if any one of us have ever witnessed there is a trend going on in our vicinity, but it takes those that are able to be calm to study what is really going on. If you notice, in our children's various schools, before you walk 2-3 steps, you see those selling this gin, selling that, even up to church. So I think the only way we parents, apart from the issue of we bringing them together, another aspect we should look into as parents is we holding some of our leaders and community leaders responsible. Let us hold them. Let us continue to speak to them. You can be doing the work of parenting at home. You can be doing the work of parenting by monitoring, by doing that. But please, while we are out there again, because we have seen scenarios, so many scenarios, even children following their parents to church, following their parents to do one or two things within the church vicinities, and before you know, children are calling. Before you know, they've gone out, played with their friends, and the more they see these things, the more it enters the brain, the more it enters the system. So I think another way we should look into this parenting, we have said all that is pertaining to the home. We should also look at it in the aspect of the society. You can't be with these children 24 hours. You can't be with the youth 24 hours. Truly, we have said we should show love, we should show this, we should show that, we can draw them closer, we can continue to speak. But some people, they get easily, they can, as I would like put it, they can easily be coined to bad activities. Because some people, their heart is soft standard. So I think another thing we should look at is, we should also look at from our own parenting aspect. Let us also look at the preventive measures we take, even if we draw them together, because there has to be preventive measures. That preventive measures about from how we empower our youth at home, how we do that, and we do all what Mrs. Maria have said. I'm just chipping this in because we have seen a lot. There are so many youths that even leaves the vicinity of the school, that still goes and buy this, buy that. I remember when my younger brother was still in one of the schools in Lagos here. Even said why the school session is on, it's only God that knows how it goes out. And before you, the next place you will see my brother is where mechanics works, and where they push cars to help them because he needs money. And they later asked him, what do you need the money for? He wants to use it to buy this, wants to use it to buy that. Do you know what these things are for? And we later got to know that most of the things he has been saying within, because most of these things are being sold closer to the schools. You see people selling gin closer to the school, not far, like 5 steps to the schools. You see, I know NDLEA are trying to do much, but I think there should be a law as regards some of these things. Bringing the schools to awareness on these things, it really matters. So
All
please, let us also look at that. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Nigeria must be great. That's at Ayomiji. Thank you for your intervention. There indeed, this program holds every Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. West African time. So always feel free and find time to join us. Every week we hold this. Thank you once again for your intervention there. Before I believe Madam Maria would allow that to pass, but before I come to, let me quickly take, somebody is asking here, that's Justina. Justina is asking, thank you for the brilliant presentation from Mrs. Maria, and I also enjoyed the other from Mama B, who spoke from South Africa. Please, I would love Mama B. I missed some of her explanations on the concept of sparing the rod, where she referred to the actual meaning in the Bible. Please, can you help us ask her to explain that rod concept again? I need to get some clarity there. Thank you. Mama B, are you still available?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please, did you get the question?
Yes, I did.
Please, can you please quickly run through that again for the benefit of this person? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. I discovered when I was, I'm doing these spaces on Twitter about disciplining versus punishing. And because I know that spare the rod is the scripture that I grew up on, and a lot of us get told, and everywhere you talk about disciplining children, people always bring the scripture. So I was looking as to what actually it meant. And I found that it It comes from the Hebrew word shevet, Shevet, and sometimes they spell it Shebet. And Solomon, as a poet, used the word that was poetic at the time. And shevet is the staff, the stick that shepherds carried as they shepherded out in the field. And they used that just to point the direction for the sheep to go. And when a sheep maybe, wandered away from the rest of the sheep, the shepherd used the stick to sort of point it to the group. If the sheep was almost falling into a ditch, he would just prod it with, pointed to the rest of the direction of the rest of the sheep. It was never used to beat up on a sheep that strayed from the rest of the path. So the Shabbat was just a rod of direction, not an instrument to hurt the sheep. And so it is because of the translations over time that we got to believing that the rod is a stick to inflict physical pain on a child. That was never the meaning of the rod. The rod was Shavat, and Shavat was a staff that shepherds used in the field, not to beat up on sheep, but to point direction to where the sheep would go. So I hope that answers the question.
All
Thank
right,
you.
absolutely. But just hold on a bit. There is still another. I'm just seeing another person dropping a message. This is Richard Campbell. Richard Campbell is asking, preach Mama B. The scripture is not always literal, is it? Or only when it serves us? I don't know if you have an idea of what the question or what the person is saying. Richard Campbell, Mama B.
Could you read that again? Richard Campbell is actually he's a community member
Okay.
in my community, so he followed me into this room. Good to see you, Richard. Could you read again what Richard is a
Okay.
singer?
Richard
Could you
is saying the scripture is not always literal. Is it? Or only when it serves us? I guess in a sense, maybe he's trying to agree with you, but then maybe since
Yes,
he's your community member, you probably have a better understanding of what
yes,
he's saying.
he absolutely agrees with me because Richard is a wonderful, powerful single father, and I admire how he raises his children. And yes, he definitely agrees with me that we are taking that scripture literally and literal based on a misinterpretation of the rod. So we've just been messing our children up because we're using the Bible to abuse our children, which is why I say inflicting physical pain on children is child abuse, because it does not make sense when you think about it that when an adult lays hands or beats up on another adult in a home, we call the police because of the assault that happened in the home. But when the same adult lays his hands on a child in a harmful way, we call it good parenting. So for me is, why does the age of the victim change what we call it? Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. Thank you. I'm done.
All right, thank you very much there, Mama B. Thank you for. Okay, let's, before I invite our guest speaker, Maria, to speak to all of this, let's get the intervention or contribution or question from Ahmad. Ahmad at Arewa Poet. Please go ahead. Yes, Ahmad, unmute yourself. You are muted.
Hello, can you hear me? Good evening.
Yes, you are
Good evening,
loud and
everyone.
clear now. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say kudos to the speaker. Wonderful presentation. I I have two questions before I give my intervention based on there's a particular topic that the speaker raised, and I can actually relate very well with the issue. So the two questions are what role do social media and online influencers play in promoting substance abuse among youth, and how can parents counteract this influence by these influencers? Then the second question is, how can parents balance setting clear boundaries with giving their child autonomy and independence? So those are the two questions. The intervention that I just want to say, I just want to emphasize on the issue of a child growing up without encouragement, because I remember vividly. Of course, I didn't grow up with my parents. I grew up with my aunt. So I remember vividly growing up. It was difficult because eventually everything that I do, there was no one to actually encourage me. There was no one to tell me that, okay, yeah, this is actually good. You're making progress. I remember I had flair for football, so but because there was nobody to always tell me that, remind me that, oh yeah, man, you're doing great. The encouragement. I remember that was how I actually fell, and that was how I actually fell and into the issue of substance abuse as a teenager then. So encouragement is it's a very, 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 very important issue. Thank you very much, Mr. Wafemi. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much there, Ahmad. Really interesting conversation. Okay, let Madam Maria, please, you want to speak to all of this before we come to the question? Okay, I think you already have two questions from Ahmad Elo. Please go ahead, and if you want to speak to any of the other issues earlier raised by Nigeria Must Be Great Again, or Mama B, or Mr. Campbell. Campbell has already dropped in another question again, but let's Madam Maria go ahead first, please. Go ahead, please.
All right, thank you so much, sir. And thank you to all the contributors, Mama B, Oga Bashir, Nigeria Must Be Great, Ahmed. I hope I haven't left anybody out. Yes, I totally agree with what Mama B said, what Oga Bashir said. What Nigeria must be great said, and I just want to add that when you talk about community prevention in the community is another topic entirely. Yes, the community has a lot to do, because when you look at certain substances that are really, will I say, selling now, you find that there are just these ones that are legal. Yes, but because a substance is legal does not mean it is not psychoactive. It does not mean that it is not dangerous. However, we must have regulations in place to restrict access to even the legal substances. And that's another aspect of prevention, which I wouldn't want us to delve in and then forget about what we are talking about today. But it's something that we can have a conversation about when the time comes. And then also, Ahmed, I'm really sorry about what you passed through while growing up. Nobody's an island. We always need people to encourage us. And it's good that you have realized this, and I hope you also be a shoulder for people to lean on. So you asked about what role the media plays, what role the social media plays in, I think, advertising drugs, celebrities,
Social media
social media influencers, yes, in making advertising drugs, isn't it?
in promoting
substance abuse. Yes,
and how can parents counteract?
Yes, so we see some social media influencers or celebrities using drugs. What can parents do? So there are myths about drugs. Parents can debunk those myths. And again, with parenting, teaching our children what our values are, that will also help them. So even if your child sees someone using drugs outside, and your child has already been taught that in this house you cannot use drugs, we don't use drugs, that child will more likely follow what the parents have said. And then when you begin to explain to the child, you take the drug, for instance, even if it's alcohol. Yes, people who even in the advertisement, you see people wearing good things, showing the good life and all. You must also explain the consequences. Okay, these in the short term, they might look happy, but what happens in the long term? Let us not think that our children do not understand. Let us not think that because they understand much more than we think they understand. If we teach them that this is what we stand for, these are our values. After all, even though alcohol and tobacco is legalized, many people are not using it. So if we take time to tell our children that these and these, we must engage our children. And we cannot stop some people from doing some things in social media. We may not be able to control that. Even on the television, you say not for persons under the age of 18 or 16. So they have that. And, artists have a way of protecting themselves. They have that parental guidance and all. Also, it's left for our parents to also put the values, inculcate these values in us. Someone told me that she was talking to a child about not smoking. And the child said, how can you say that I should not smoke? My father smokes. My mother smokes. My auntie smokes. My grandmother smokes. So if we see such a child, that influence in that home for that child is by far greater than what will ever come out from the social media. So that's that. And we have let our children know about our boundaries. There should be clear ground rules. You can't do this. We think they are not hearing. They are there. We need, because when children, even when you go to school, in the nursery school, it's about repetition. Without repetition, young children don't learn. So we keep talking about these things. We keep talking about these things to them. We keep talking. We don't wait and feel, they don't know anything until that time comes. No. So let us know that we tried our best. Let us know that we tried. We did all that we could ever possibly do. Thank you.
Okay, I think Ahmad asked a second question, which I didn't, escaped me. Ahmad,
Okay,
can you repeat your second question?
Yes, how can parents balance setting clear boundaries with giving their child autonomy and independence?
Okay, so in setting boundaries, you need to set ground rules. And these ground rules have to be collaborative. If you as a parent set the rule and take it to your children, it may not work. So because when you are setting the rules together, what you feel is not okay, what you feel is not okay, you will explain. What they feel is not okay, then you come to a compromise, something that you agree. And once you engage them, even if you have the upper hand, they will know that they contributed to it. But this doesn't even happen in homes only. Even in schools, in secondary schools, in the university, the rules, the regulations, you may not find a single student in the board or among those setting those rules. You will not find any representation. People who ordinarily have nothing to gain, or well, I wouldn't say gain, nothing, who are not affected by the rules, who the rules are not meant for, they are the only ones who make the rules. So if you want to set boundaries for your children, if you want to set the ground rules, it has to be collaborative, even in the classroom. And that way they are able to own it. And so even among themselves, they know the consequence of what they want to do. They know what they will do and what the consequence will be. And then they avoid it. And then when you see that they are of good behavior, you also reward them. You can praise them. Sometimes you can buy something for them, acknowledge them, affirm them. So parents should not always be looking out for what offense has this child committed now. The parents will come back home, open the doors, looking for what is not right, what is wrong, what was removed from this place to the other place. As a parent, even if you come into the house and you see that everything is scattered, and your children are coming to hug you, you hug them. Not get out. Look at what you have done. Look at this. And so when you hug them, you sit down, everybody's happy. You can say, okay, can you move this to that place? Okay, can you move this to that place? Can you do this and do that? So we need to be more warm in our approach. This is my suggestion. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much once again, Maria. Before I come to Pascal, let me go to our DM again. I have quite some messages there. Okay, from Ruth Yaba again. Ruth Yaba writing, there is no one size fits all when it comes to raising children. Who is that? Please mute yourself so that I don't remove you. You make me skip that. Okay, let me come back to Ritiaba. Ritiaba, I say there is no one size fits all when it comes to raising children, but building trust and love right from when children are very little helps a lot. At least it has worked for me. Parents should also lead by example. Absolutely. That agrees with the position of everybody that has spoken. Again, Richard Campbell from South Africa. Richard is writing, what are the consequences for these boundaries? Please note that, Madam
Yes,
Maria.
sir.
Okay, again, Ruth Yaba is, I would like to direct this question to Mama B. Okay, please, Mama B, also note this. How do you discipline a toddler that hits, bites, and throws things at a parent because they are not having things their way? Back to, again, another one from Richard. Richard, I think you missed my point. It's not about what they are doing on social media. It's the social media itself, the science that it has heal effects on young people. I think that's also for Madam Maria. Okay, so let's come back to, okay, let's take Madam Maria first, then okay, let's take Mama B first, then Madam Maria will wrap it up. Okay, Mama B, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just to correct, I was born and raised in South Africa, but I'm out in the diaspora. And so I'm in Canada right now, and that's where Richard is also, in North America. So just a correction there. I heard, yes, I did hear the question about the toddler, but I want to also address the comment about there is no one size fits all. That's so true. That is very true. There is no one size fits all, which is why I'm encouraging parents to be intuitive with their children. Just set aside all of the stuff that we were taught as children, how we were raised, because a lot of those parenting styles may have worked or may not have worked. And so we really need to connect with our children. So we talk about correcting our children, but I think the problem many times is that we jump into correcting our children without first connecting to them. Because if we connect to them with this intuitive parenting and we connect to our children intuitively, we build that trust, we build that love, that warmth, and we don't harm their self-esteem in how we discipline them, which is really we punish them and we call it discipline. We will be connected to our children such that when we go to correct them, they don't kick away from our correction because they already know that we love them. They already know that we are coming to them fairly. We are coming to them with we are conscious in how we are parenting our children. But unfortunately, we are very unconscious, which is how I was when I was raising my son, who's now 38 years old. I was really unconscious. I used to just yell at him and I used to just, and talk about the toddler. What about the toddler who is doing what the question was? I find that usually we raise our children as if we were never children. And this is why you hear us say, well, we don't have a manual. Child parenting does not have a book. The baby doesn't come from the hospital with a book. But I say we actually do have a manual, and that manual is our childhood. So if we can only raise our children as if we were ever children, then it will take us a long way, because we know how things felt when things were done to us as when we were children. We know how it felt when we got beat up. We know how it felt when we were shut down. A child is to be seen and not heard, and we didn't have a voice. We also know the tools that we wish our parents had when they were raising us, but unfortunately they didn't have them. So we don't blame them. We just understand that that was a shortfall. And so we do better in our own parenting. We also know the good things that should have happened that didn't happen. The connections, the validation, the acknowledgement as children, they're allowing us to have our voice so we can trust the voice within. When God speaks to us, when we grow older, we already have been trained that we have a voice that we can trust and have the autonomy to listen to. So all of that goes into a manual that we already bring into our parenting. And so if we keep all of that in mind, we will approach parenting differently, instead of throwing our hands up and saying, well, we don't have a book and we're just doing our best. And yet the best that we say we're doing is beating up on children and causing them to run out to social media and to substance abuse. And so to touch on what Richard was asking, I believe in the chat about is social media drug substance abuse also. I think where he was going is that science has shown that social media is addictive, right? When you see the likes and you post and people respond, whatever, it's addictive. That is why we have likes, they have views and all that stuff. That's addictive. So I'm believing that Richard was bringing to the conversation the whole addiction or addictiveness of social media, because I think we should add it to the substance abuse that we use. And I'm guilty for it. I'm addicted to social media, hence I'm here myself. So thank you. I'm done.
All right, thank you there, Mama B. Interesting having you on this platform, on this conversation today. Okay, let's now invite our guest speaker to respond to all of that, and then give us her closing remarks, because we are just 3 minutes away from the hour. That 2 hours gone, just like 2 minutes ago. Thank you very much, everyone. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be as brief as possible. So I think someone asked about what should be consequences for behavior error, like I would like to call them. So when a child does something that he's not supposed to do. So I think that the consequences, what the consequences should not be, it shouldn't be such that draw blood, that a child is inflicted, beaten, and then the child is bleeding. It shouldn't be such that makes the child ashamed or losing, or for the child to lose his or her self-esteem. So the consequences should be such that is able to correct the behavior around, not the child. That's what discipline should be. Discipline shouldn't be about that child. It should be about that behavior. So whatever consequence you are giving, is it changing the behavior, or is just making the child feel painful? And then over time, the child will begin to feel resentful towards the person, whoever is inflicting that wound on that child. And then also, the consequences should be as agreed upon. Remember, if we have not set rules for acceptable behavior, on what basis are we even giving the consequences? And when we are setting these rules, setting these boundaries, of course, it should be in collaboration with the people or with the children that we are dealing with. It should be mutual. And of course, some children in their, zealousness might want to even set very harsh consequences. It is left for the parents to say, no, that can't be a consequence. So for instance, you when you're done eating, you don't wash your plate. So what should be the consequence for that? Don't be surprised if your child says 20 strokes of the cane. Are you going to do that? So you have to discuss. Even the process of setting boundaries and talking about the consequences can also be fun. And then for social media is addictive, like Mama B has said. I just want to say that what can help us with social media addiction can also be social media literacy. Yes, so we need to understand what social media is and what it can do. And we need to understand, especially the fakeness in most cases. Social media has its own positive side, but there is also the negative side. And people should also know that it is not every time you post something that you'll be liked or you'll be commended and all of that. And then also, people should learn to take breaks, regular breaks from social media, maybe a few minutes, then a few hours. And then there's also how to set timing for you to know how much time you have consumed on social media. Okay, let me round up on the hour. So, first, I want to say that I really appreciate the opportunity given to me by the NDLA leadership to be here. We talked today about parenting, what parents can do, strategies that we can put in their hands so that they can help their children to stay away from drugs in this digital age. I want to also say that it is not true that every child that went into drugs was as a result of poor parenting. That is not true. Yes. Some parents actually try their best, do all that they need to do. Sometimes a child might just want to find out what this substance is all about. Sometimes the child might say, let me just check, let me just know what it is. And after that, I will leave. Some leave, but some, unfortunately, may not be able to leave without an intervention. Thank you so much.
Wow, what a conversation today. Thank you very much once again. Our guest speaker today, Maria Ilubuhi, is a substance use prevention professional, a top-notch capacity builder with a successful track record in coordinating, delivering, and management of trainings, interventions, and educational programs with measurable impact. I can go on and talk about this woman of great and deep substance. Thank you very much for finding time to honor our invitation and for being brilliantly awesome today on this platform. Thank you very much. I also like to appreciate Mama B. Mama B just stepped in as our associate guest speaker today and backed online by Campbell. That's by Richard Campbell out there, both of them in Canada as I speak. Campbell still dropping messages. I have quite a number of his messages, but unfortunately, we are right on the hour. We don't like keeping people beyond the time. So we appreciate everyone, those joining us on YouTube and those who have joined this conversation also on our Facebook platform. We appreciate you all. Thank you very much. Let's keep this going so that this message can continue to spread and so that we can continue to share this and let's get everyone, let's sensitize our families, our kids, our young ones, our community, and indeed everyone around us as a whole so that we can get people well equipped with the right skills to resist the temptation of substance abuse wherever they may be coming from. Once again, I'd like to appreciate everyone for finding time. Next Friday, the same time, 3 to 5 p.m. local time will be the time for another conversation, and we'll be bringing another fresh topic so that we can continue to benefit, share knowledge, share information to the benefit of humanity. On this side, I'd like to appreciate my colleagues who have been working behind the scene with me: Rita, Shidi, Musa, Francis, Dele, Mahmoud, Kumbi, Vina, Neta, Comfort, Miriam, Philemon, Sini, and the rest of you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. This is the point where I would like to draw the curtain today. But then before we go, let me remind us, you, that indeed you can always get detailed information about the activities of the NDLA on our website, that is www.ndla.gov.ng, and across our social media platforms, that's at NDLA01 on Facebook and at NDLA_Nigeria on X, as well as on TikTok and on YouTube, that's at NDLA TV. This conversation is recorded and is available on all of these platforms that I've mentioned, so we can always go back, take a listen, and even share with others. Until we come your way next Friday, the same time, with another interesting conversation, please do enjoy your weekend, be safe, and abstain from substance abuse. Thank you very much. Bye-bye from here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Madam Miriam. Thank you. That's the end of the conversation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate you, sir.
Get the tramadol for the road, body they pay me Hello, doctor. I know it's the way to. I know it's the way. Make I check your body, then I will tell you waiting you need. Hello, doctor. No need to check me. I know say now waiting my body need. Is it your body? I don't be waiting. I don't be waiting. Hello, doctor. You see, I am coming. I need to get on the way. Let's make I check. I don't be too late. Can it cannot be? I need to end this feeling. Hello, doctor, what did I do myself? You're the same, but I didn't want somebody. To help me check my body. I need your help before it's too late.